اسمي روني حتي. جيت لهون سنة 80. الماما والبابا قالوا لنا جايين على كندا نزور أصحاب لراس السنة لنوال، ونروح نزور نيويورك، لأنه قالوا لنا هيك. وصلنا لهون حاطين ون واي تيكت حتى ما يرجعونا بيروت، لأنه اثنيناتنا كنا عم نتزعرن في بيروت. بقى جينا لهون. أنا كان عمري 16 سنة 17 سنة، ومضيت سنتين بالمدرسة، بعدين رحت على الجامعة. أهلي البابا أصله بالريستورانت اند هوتيل بزنس. بلش بالخمسينات بالأوتيلات ببيروت، بعدين راح على السعودية على الكويت، بعدين فتح كازينو دمشق الدولي. تعرف على أمي بالشام، بعدين اجى على بيروت وكان الديريكتور جنرال تبع اوتيل فريال المزار من ال 66 لل 69. بعدين فتحوا مطعم على طريق الشام حد الميوزي ناسيونال برايح نتفه، اسمه عوسلكا. C'était comme un pub restaurant very successful لحديت ما بلشت الحرب. نحن ساكنين كنا بحرش تابت، فتح كمان مطعم تاني بحرش تابت، عوسلكا دوزيام عوسلكا بلوز élaboré 4 étoiles 5 étoiles quelque chose du genre. وبلش الحرب اللي على طريق الشام احترق. والبابا بلش عمل الكيترينج، اخذ الكافيتيريا باليونيفرسيتي سان جوزيف بالليسي. انا كنت تلميذ لايسينا، قالوا لي على الليسي وقت اللي بلش الحرب. بعدين اجينا لهون، وقت اللي اجوا لهون فتحوا مطعم وباتيسري. بقول لك سنة 80 تورونتو يا محلى اللي رايح على السعودية بالستينات. اوكي، هونيك كنا نقول بالزمانات وننكت نقول شعب هونيك بجم وهيك. هون ذات الشيء بس بيحكوا انجليزي. That's the only difference. Okay, they're better organized. They opened a restaurant and a bakery, and we were the first people to make croissants and baguettes in Toronto. They didn't even know what a croissant is. وأنا درست حتى تصير into banking. I got my MBA in finance. I graduated. I worked for a bank for 4 days and realized I hated it. ورحت عند اشتغل مع بيي، قلت له I'm an MBA. Let me manage your restaurant. حطني بالدishwashing وبلشت هونيك. I got very interested, so I went off to Switzerland. So I studied for a year. ورجعت وتعرفت واحد من أصحابي هون، كان عملت interview معه قبل، تشارلز خبوت، اللي هو at the time he was sort of the impresario of the hottest nightclub in the city, and we opened our first business together. كان اسمه بوا كافيه. And that was the start of everything. That was in 1989. Boa Cafe became legendary. It was not me saying it. This is news articles and magazines saying it. It was the first place that brought the restaurant and nightclub cultures together. We were the first people to come up with the idea of putting a DJ at the bar. This is 1989, and the place became really crazy. I mean, and being Lebanese, تعرف نحن نحب القوانين بس مش زيادة. بقى بالزمانات كان liquor licenses هون للساعة 1 بعد نص ليل و that's it. أنا عرفت إنه that's a bad idea. So Boa Cafe was a place that served liquor all night, and we were busy. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday till 6 o'clock in the morning, everybody came there. And they left us alone, and we were there for 10 years. And from that, I grew. I went on an empire building mission. I opened the first real brasserie in Toronto in 1992. Now, in the meantime, after we immigrated here, we got my cousin to immigrate here, and he's sitting behind you. And my cousin is no other than Monsieur Gregory Gatserelia. The first project with Charles Boa, he wanted to use some local designers. I said, no, let me show you. I have, my cousin is a designer, and he gave me that skeptical look. Like, what do you mean your cousin? طول بالك نتفي، خلينا نجربه، إذا ما عجبك بنقول له يروح. So Gregory gave us a sketch of what he saw the place. Charles fell in love with the idea, and Gregory designed the place, and long and behold, as soon as we open, we get recognized by every design magazine in the world, from wallpaper to design, interior design, to everything. The place becomes literally on a world scale as far as design. And pretty much every project that I've done since, I've opened a total of 14 restaurants and nightclubs, mostly restaurants. Most famous of them were Boa Cafe, then Brasserie Zola, which was there for 10 years, voted one of Toronto's top 10 restaurants for 10 years in a row. Then I opened in 1995. There was a legendary restaurant in Toronto that's been open since the 30s called Winston's. And that was the place where the Queen used to come. It went bankrupt, and the owner was involved in a whole bunch of funny business. اشتريناه أنا والشريك. And I looked at it and I thought, this city has never seen fine dining. They don't know what 3-star Michelin dining is like. So we went about and we took a 200-seat restaurant, turned it to 48 seats, had a kitchen brigade of 30, and did our best impression of a 3-star Michelin, to the point where Michelin only came to Toronto recently. They didn't rate Michelin restaurants. But the New York Times wrote about us as one of the top 3 restaurants in North America. Here, our most famous food critic said Toronto's never had a restaurant like this and never will again. But long story short, 3-star Michelin in Canada, c'est une expression en français, c'est donner de la confiture en cochon. I kept it open for 5 years, lost money every year. I supported it just because, you know what, I loved doing that, and I had a whole bunch of other restaurants and nightclubs that supported the passion. It's a work of passion. And then sold the building in 99. Woke up one morning in 2000 and I hated what I was doing, because I had 5 restaurants, 3 nightclubs, and I felt I was becoming corporate. I couldn't stand the idea of corporate. I sold everything and decided to concentrate on nightclubs, and opened a nightclub right here. We're in Chinatown. Hello. I opened a club that opened at 1 a.m. and went till noon the next day, and it was all about big DJs. And that was an incredible success for 4.5 years. And then again, woke up one morning and got tired. I'm the artiste of the hospitality business. I don't do industrial. I do things that are the very best of what they are at the time period, because you can never be the very best for very long. That becomes maintenance. And if I wanted maintenance, I would have had kids. So I'm an impatient, attention deficient person, but I love what I do. So I've done a couple of things. One of them was called Abode in 2010. So I took some time off after the big nightclub in 2007. Took some time off. 2010, I opened a new concept called Abode, which was, Abode means home in English, and it was the idea of a super luxury loft with bedrooms, with everything, and your party areas where you'd go into a bedroom and you'd have a big bathtub full of ice and champagne, and you basically partied in somebody's house. Did that for 2-3 years. Again, got tired of it, and swore 2014-15. I swore I would never ever do another restaurant or nightclub. 2018, I walked into the space I'm about to take you in. It was a theater that was abandoned in 1920. It used to be the center of the Communist Party in the 1920s, the first Yiddish theater in North America, and it was abandoned, and nobody could get in. I got it in 2018, and a light bulb went off in my head. I thought, okay, this is my opus, this is my last one. We're going to do something over the top. So got Gregory to come and design it, and then COVID happened. I almost kicked the bucket 3 times during COVID. I was incredibly sick for 2.5 years, like really sick. From anybody who doubts COVID, talk to me. And about what was it, in January I got better. I had to have surgery, and I got better, and now we're kickstarting the project again. I'm kickstarting it, but my heart is not in it anymore. Honestly, I'm doing it because I have the building. I want to do something with it. But I'm also thinking of going back to Beirut. It's the first Yiddish theater, and for people who don't know what Yiddish is, they're the more secular Jews who came from Russia, and they're the intellectuals, they're the intelligentsia, and they were mostly the communists. So they came here, and in 1920, this theater opened, and it was the first Yiddish theater in North America, complete. And by chance, it also became the head office of the Communist Party, and they used to throw a lot of events. They became very troublesome. The government finally shut them down in 1935. The building went from being, it used to be called the Standard Theater, it became the Strand Theater, movie theater between 35 and 45. At the end of the war, everybody started calling everything Victory. So this became the Victory Theater, and it's been called the Victory ever since. Operated like a movie theater for 2 years, then they realized a lot of movie theaters, so they turned it into the first burlesque theater of Toronto. This is the granddaddy of all strip clubs that you find anywhere in Toronto. Because at the time, you couldn't go to a strip club like you do now. At the time, you sat in a theater, the strippers were on stage. And back then, Toronto was very, very, very conservative until very recently. That changed like literally after 2000. So it stayed, they called it the sinful Victory because there's a lot of scandals that happened here. And in 1970, they shut it down because strip clubs were outdoing it. Became a concert hall for 2 years. Then a Chinese guy bought it, and it became a Chinese movie theater, kung fu, Chinese porn, you name it. And then in 1992, it was shut down. And literally, nobody paid attention that it was shut down, and it was abandoned for 25 years. So when I saw it in 2018 that it come on the market, I came in, and it was a disaster. You'll still see it's a disaster still inside. But I saw a potential that we're gonna go through the side door here of an idea. Reish! So we've had to literally take the roof off because the roof was falling apart and put down a new roof. And this is what we're building.
This is what I say, wow.
That's what I said when I saw the space. Now, when we came in, the ceiling was lower. It was the same as this. So we had to take off everything and redo the ceiling, put a new ceiling on. This is not, most people look at this and see nightclub. I've done nightclubs. Nightclubs are done. Nightclubs is like trying to sell Elvis Presley in 1980. It's a concept based on Studio 54 in New York. Times have changed. People, if they want to meet people and hook up, you go online, you have Tinder. If you want to hear underground music, you go on YouTube. If you want to have conversation, forget it. Nobody's capable of conversation anymore. So c'est une idée qui a déjà été dépassée. Your competition is not nightclubs. People still want to be entertained. Your competition is the house party. So this was developed as what we call a social campus, auditory, gustatory, social campus that is based on augmented reality. Gregory will show you some of the design schemes for this, but this is 4 years ago. We're redesigning it now. The idea is that you came in here and you never put your hand in your pocket. No exchange of money ever happens. And we evolve it around you. What we did is we paid homage to the history of the building. That's why how we kept the historical board happy. We divided it into 4 concepts. There's another room below, which is street level, a restaurant. So to pay homage to the Yiddish area, we did a zakuski bar. So it's a vodka bar that serves zakuski. So it's the idea of a tapas bar in Spanish, but only the Russian style. This way we sell lots of vodka. It's a profit center. And zakuski can be very interesting food. It goes from as high as caviar to cabbage, and the range. Up here, this is a concert and social hall. It can be concert, it can be a number of things. That stage area has its own access from the back. Actually, the stage area is very interesting because the ceiling is even higher. It's got a 24-meter ceiling. It can be part of this room, or there's drawers that drop down. And the idea was how to compete with technology. People watch something like Chef's Table on Netflix. Okay, they see Joe Malman cooking in Argentina. They see, I don't know, at Le Doyen in Paris. Like, that's the idea. So what we decided is to do a pop-up restaurant that once every month or 6 weeks, we bring a 3-star Michelin from somewhere, chef from somewhere around the world. We're building a show kitchen. He comes in, he cooks a prix dinner, very expensive, but then we have our local chef, who's also a very highly rated chef, who continues with that menu for 6 weeks, just Friday and Saturday. But if we have, let's say, Joe Malman from Argentina, it's all on one big table. So 45 or 50 people sitting at one big table, he cooks for them. They sit in a room that is exactly no different than what it is today. But it is full of projections and augmented reality. So if we have an Argentinian chef, the world around you is going to take you to Buenos Aires. You're going to meet through holographic projections Evita Perón. You're going to go to the Patagonian plains. You're going to visit Argentina while sitting at the table. So we're competing with your phone, except the only sensory thing that you're touching is flavors. I'm sure a lot of people have seen a video on YouTube where there's a table and there's augmented reality projected on a plate where you have chefs putting food on the table. Look it up, it's very interesting. This was the inspiration for it. It's like, you know what, people's heads are someplace else. Let's take their heads where they want to go, but let's put flavor in their mouth, but at a really high level. So going out for dinner is the entertainment from start to finish. It's like theater where we cater to all 5 senses. Same thing in this room. We have, instead of having light shows, sound is very important to me, but it is all about following technology and following new generation, because the new generation is not you and me. The new generation is Gen Z. They think very differently. They really are really different people, especially in North America. And the third concept is, how do we cut the bond of hosting? Because what separates me from my customer is me taking money from them at the end of the day. If you want to walk out without having to pay a bill, ask for me, because I'll always comp your bill. I feel bad asking for money, but it's bad business. So you won't have to ask for money. You put our app, you put your picture in the app, you put your credit card in your app, and you put your thumbprint in the app. Then you walk in here. And just like the Chinese government does, we follow you. We know everything that you do. And as you're walking out, we charge your credit card. You never touch $1. And that, for me, is the way to get past the sort of house party versus nightclub. You walk in, you walk out. You never, your interaction, you walk in, Monsieur Rahayel, the waitress has never seen you in her life, but she got the data on you. If data can elect Donald Trump, it can get you served. So that's the concept. So the entrance is called Daji's Den. Daji was a concubine. For those who don't know what a concubine is, it is an escort who kept company with one of the most vicious emperors of China, okay? And she eventually led to his demise. And the concept for this lounge at the entrance is Daji's Den. It's basically a Chinese opium den, minus the opium, where we concentrate on mixology, on drinks that are treated like 3-star Michelin food. So your drinks are $40, $50, $60. They're done with rare ingredients. But it's a place to come, and it's about we call it Hall of the Intoxicants. So you come in to get intoxicated, but intoxicated in luxury. And we serve little amuse-bouche that are based on an idea of dim sum, but again, elevated with fine ingredients. Okay, the ceiling here is the biggest art piece. If I show you pictures of the original Boa Cafe where I started, it was based on, design was on very sort of Antonio Gaudi, very Barcelona, broken tiles put together. And everything that I've done ever since, there's always an element that draws back. My company is called Boa Group. So instead of doing the broken tiles, Gregory came up with an ingenious concept of polycarbonate pieces that are hung from the ceiling individually, which create a dome on which we can project what we want to project. So it's these individual pieces, but they also act as sound buffers, sound absorbent. They help the acoustics of the room, and it's some element of entertainment, and it changes. It's ever constantly changing. And what we do is we grade the floor, so it's basically like an old Roman amphitheater with different seating areas. It is meant to cater to all your senses. So sound has to affect you. Light has to do the same thing. Certain lights make you think you're beautiful, even though you might look like me. Or certain lights make you look ugly. Depends where you're projected from. So we study everything down to the smallest detail because we want people to have a complete experience. I've always said to my staff at the beginning of my famous speeches when I open every new place, I said, people lead very boring lives in general. Not to put them down, but this is the world society. This is the society we live in. When they come to a nightlife venue, whether dinner, a nightclub, a theater, something like that, they have 2 or 3 hours. They're giving you sometimes 1 week's worth of income. Make them feel like James Bond. They have to be in there and feel like Roger Moore. They're 007 for those 3 hours. And if you can do that, you can get them to pay whatever you want. And when they leave, they will not feel ripped off. They'll feel like, I was 007 for 4 hours this week, now I can go back to my normal life. So this is what we go after. And that's why I told you at the outset, I said, I do things differently than most people. I'm not the purveyor of, I'm not a nightclub person, I'm not a restaurateur. I'm the purveyor of nightlife. So how to take life and make it better at night. I hate daytime. Me being up at 7 o'clock from this side of it, waking up at 7, is very difficult. I go to bed at 7 normally. So this is it. This is the theater.
This is the bit. There's a lot of provocation, but on a classy way. And this is like, that serve also a look for this part of the setup where you have your un peu à la Scarface, where you have your own table, etc. So it's a bit the scene that can be quite interesting, provocative, at the same time enjoyable. And I've experienced this in Beirut when we did Cristal. So we created really a Tony Montana spirit. We played on a bad taste, good taste. And people loved it because it wasn't related to anything of the daily environment. So they let go. They let go. It's like a place. It doesn't look like a home. It doesn't look like a restaurant. It's just like a party place. And this is where people start to spend money. I'm Gregory Gatserelia, the designer. I have a long track record of things that I've done. Beirut, moved to Canada for at least 10 years in the 80s, 90s. Went back to, my experience in Canada was amazing because it was really from zero to hero. It took like not even 8 months due to Boa. Boa, without knowing, had an amazing press. It was a surprise, and at the same time it was like a provocation because I was hired by a big company and they paid a lot of money to get me into that company. They hired headhunters. So, and they knew about this before me that it was published and printed by the Globe and Mail. And I had to take a decision. They told me either you sign this paper and no moonlighting, you cannot work outside the office, or get the fuck out of here. I didn't hesitate 2 seconds. I left. And the adventure started, and we were really, really successful here. We won awards for a restaurant that we did called Acrobat after Bourne. And then there was the appeal of going back to Beirut because everything was starting. A lot of hope of peace with all the region, etc. So I felt like going home. But I think it was an interesting choice. Not all the time on a positive side, you know, because the region has the negatives and the positive. But it was nice to be there because everything is starting to be in pioneer, so yeah. And we did some really, really interesting work in residential. By the way, I'm a consultant in the object and art, 20th century till contemporary. So I build collection for clients also that's in the residential. And 2 years ago, we will talk about this because you know him. We were on a very interesting project with Alain Jean in Paris. But we were eaten on this project by a big company called Paris Society. They pushed it away. But dommage, it would have been an amazing thing. He's a great guy, I love this guy. You know, there's, like I said, in Canada, it's the American dream from zero to hero. It takes 8 months. In Lebanon, I had to wait 10 years to have a name, because I'm not very social, etc. It was the Acrobat. So there's Gregory before Acrobat, and there's Gregory after Acrobat. Acrobat put me on the map in Lebanon. I've done, after Acrobat, I did Lilies, Serai, Kampai, Sushi Bar, both of them. The Abdul Wahab one that I love, and the new one that won an award also. We did, and the most famous project that we did, and we have, I'm going to print a book, it's about spine. The spine rooftop has so far, we listed 25 copies around the world. That looks like exactly, or not as good, as nice, etc., as spine. Lately, another one in Jordan, there's in Baghdad, there's in Yerevan, there's in Africa, there's in Saudi, and I heard they're doing also in Europe, in East Europe, they're reproducing spine. So I'm going to write a book, I'm going to call it Spine Metastase. And with whatever I get, I can get a picture of all those projects, etc. I think this is the most, and it won in 2019 in London at the Bar and Restaurant Awards. Sorry about this much. The overall project among 500 entries. And voilà. And we keep on doing things. We did Robuchon. We are one of the designers of Robuchon International. We did Dubai. We did for Naguib Sawiris in his new marina in Cyprus, Robuchon, L'Atelier and Delhi. And now we're doing a huge one in Marrakesh. And 3 outlets in Monaco, a bakery, a deli, and a Mediterranean restaurant. Not an atelier yet, we don't have the space yet.
It's an article written about the design.
The design by the most famous art critic, Christopher Young. On avait 3 colonnes. Personne, that's what I said, from zero to hero started here.
And it extended to me because that made people come. And it literally got to a point where the place was the size of this room, would fit 80 to 100 people. On a Saturday night, we would do 700 to 800 people till 4 o'clock in the morning. Celebrities would show up, like you name them. What's his name? Stallone showed up at the door. We kicked them out. We said, "You're not a regular customer. Go away." It became a legend. It's an institution that launched a lot of things in Toronto. But because of the design, it got the attention. Because it got the attention, and I was slightly talented, we became what we became. And from that point on, it was ingrained in my head. It is a total package. You know what? People can cook at home. They don't need your restaurant. They'll go out because they want the complete package. Always make sure from sound, lighting, design, look, service, how to kiss their ass, everything. You have to do it to perfection. If not, you know what? If you just want to take food from A to B, go work for the post office.